Welcome in to your season-long fantasy golf rankings debate part 2. It's time for the big dogs. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there, Andy Lack. Andy, 40-1. These are the guys everybody's been begging to hear about.
I got to say, this is the most pumped I've been for a podcast I've done in quite some time, because I've made this joke already on Twitter, but man, it is tough sledding at the top here. I mean, I think I probably changed my ranking a bunch of times over the past couple of weeks, and I'm pretty pumped to talk through it again with you, which probably will yield another switch up of the rankings as well.
Yeah, my rankings have been a living, breathing document for the last couple of weeks, especially as going through drafts and all that stuff. But we have a lot of stuff to cover. Also, getting lost in all of this, obviously Christmas and New Year's and everything that's going on. The Tournament of Champions is next week.
I know. I can't believe it. So next week is like back to regularly scheduled programming, huh?
That's right. Yeah, let's go. Get your DFS preview, your betting preview, your live chat. It's back, baby. It's full on running, and the Tournament of Champions is an elevated event now, and it's going to be exciting. I'm really interested to see if the PGA Tour can actually pull off getting the majority of the top guys to play the same events.
So are you in the camp of off-season was too short, off-season was too long? Like, it literally feels like it was just yesterday that we were talking about the RSM?
I think that's because we had a Tiger month, right? December was Tiger month, which would have generally been like pretty much nothing month, right? It was.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, now every month is live month.
Right. Yeah. So, and I guess there's, when you have like a longer off season, you can kind of make bigger changes. You can implement new things. You can take time to step back and do whatever. But you run the risk of people just like forgetting about you. So I don't know. It felt very, very quick this year, but I assume that's because we were supposed to get Tiger playing 3 times. He ended up playing twice, but December was almost entirely dedicated to Tiger Woods.
Okay. Quick question for you. And then we got a lot to get through with these rankings. If I had to ask you, what is the number one storyline heading into this new season? In golf,
probably like it's live, but it's like, it's kind of 2 parts. It's, does anyone else go? And then also how they perform at major championships. Because if they whiff the majors and don't really contend, it's going to be a tough scene. If one of them wins one, watch out, right? We're never, it's going to just pour gasoline on the fire. Or if Liv tries to pull another Cam Smith, which is wait till someone wins a major and then give him like $100 million. That would also be like obviously a massive storyline.
I agree with you. I was going to say the same thing. I think it's like a 2-part answer where you have the live rumor mill versus the live performance meter, right? And I would say this has got to be like the 4 most impactful major champion. It's got to be the most impactful major year, God, in recent memory, right? And not just because of live, right? But, we're going to LA Country Club, which is this iconic venue where the members in the past have said, no, thanks, we're good.
Right.
In the second biggest city in the country in prime time, right? I mean, what more could you ask for?
If that isn't getting you excited for the upcoming season, I don't know what will. So big announcement number 1 out of the gates here. The RickRunGood one and done, aka the run and done. It's live. It's $15,000 to first place. It's single entry. It's a flat payout. It is the purest form of figuring out who the best one and doneer is out there. And once next week starts, this is going to fill very, very quickly.
Very quickly. Starts at Sony Open week, right?
Correct. So it's going to start at Sony. And as people come back for the Tournament of Champions and everything, this is going to fill very, very quickly. So I would highly recommend getting your entry in right now. There's a link in the description.
I need to do that.
It's invite only. So you can't search it. Like, you got to go through the link. This is just for our people to enter and battle it out.
How is it single entry?
Single entry.
Okay, I love that. All right, yeah, that is first on my to-do list after we
It's a
finish.
it's a one and done, one and done. You only get one crack at it.
I
One
kind of
one
like
entry.
that. It's kind of how it should be, right?
It's pure. Yeah, it's very pure to do it that way, which is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other item is, we have been working on these for some time, and we have finally rolled out this showcase season-long fantasy golf league that we have going on. We've rolled out all the managers. We've rolled out all the logos. I think they are phenomenal logos. If you're watching on YouTube, we're showing them right now. These could not have come out any better.
Like, come on. Like, even the staunchest live defenders have to be like, these are better logos and team names than what we're working with. And I am guessing that we did not have the same budget as the Saudi Public Investment Fund, who is making like approximately $50 million per second on oil and gas.
We're just slightly behind the budget of the PIF. Now, the other thing is, so people, again, once they saw these, it kind of inflamed the like, oh, how can I play? Can I get into a league? Yes. So there's another wave of drafts starting, I think, on Friday. There's a handful of $200 leagues that are available, and you can go there. The easiest way is there's a pinned tweet. Well, actually, no, the easiest way is there's a link in the description, but there's also a pinned tweet on Run Good Fantasy Twitter account that has all the information. You go to the spreadsheet, you find the league for you. But every time we kind of announce something or show something off, Andy, more people want to get involved.
Yeah. And I've gotten a lot of questions about this too, which is cool, right? Because there is not just in the numbers, but like anecdotally, I've talked to a ton of people that are super, super pumped about this. So yeah, join these leagues. There's a draft pretty much for everyone. I want to get your thoughts on slow drafts, because that's been a topic of conversation in some of the leagues I've considered joining. Are you pro or anti slow draft?
From a administrative perspective, I love them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of trying to get a time and a place for 8 strangers on the internet who live in different time zones, potentially different countries, is not something I want to try to tackle. So the slow draft, and because we're kind of in this off season, not a lot is going to change between now and the Sony Open. The slow draft allows for, I get an email. It tells me when I'm on deck or when it's my turn. I hop on, I make a pick, and I hop out. I don't think it's like the purest form of drafting where you have a minute and the guy ahead of you took the guy that you wanted, and now you've got to panic a little bit. Like, I love that aspect of the draft, but from a purely administrative perspective, like, this was the only way I could wrap my brain around it.
Sure. I completely agree. I mean, I think it is so tough to manage, to kind of if you're in the commissioner role in some of these leagues, like, I tip my cap to you, right? Because you're dealing with, strangers in some cases, people, like you said, in different time zones and everything. So yeah, I actually, it's kind of like grown on me as a concept. And I actually just joined another league that I found in the Slack channel. Like, that's another thing too. If you're in the Rick Run Good Discord, like, you will be able to find tons and tons of people to fill up your league. So like, if you're thinking about starting one, we're talking about it a ton in the Discord. So there's ample opportunity. Get it in the next 2 weeks.
So speaking of administrative purposes, as much as I would love to, so we're all going to draft in Las Vegas on January 7th. We'll be at the Wynn. If you're there, you can come watch through the window. They'll play it out into the hallway. You can view this in real time. So we're going to do this in Las Vegas, Andy, which I'm very, very excited about. And as much as I would love to draw the draft order live and in person, we got to get graphics ready. We got to get administrative stuff ready. We got to like do the behind the scenes stuff. So I want to draw the draft order right now.
Right. Let's do it. This is honestly, like, Rick, as a Knicks fan, like, lottery night was my almost just as fun as the draft, in my opinion. So let's rock it, man.
All right. So what I have here is a very nice valuables pouch from TPC Sawgrass that I picked up while I was down there. And inside of this, Andy, I've got 8 poker chips, and they're all kind of generally your team color, but you can see, hold on, I'll see if I can zoom in on myself here. You can see I have also wrote down what team it is so that there is no.
So what are my official colors then? It's kind of like baby blue and navy, right?
Yeah, you're like a baby blue navy, but I love the using the Big Apple as the golf ball.
Oh, it's
that was
incredible.
very sharp.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
Super, super, super well done.
So I'm gonna put these in here, and I think we should draft them in reverse order. Oh, I lost you. So,
I like that. That's how the lottery does for the NBA too.
Right. So I'll pick the 8th spot first. All right, let's do it. I'm nervous. Here we go. The 8th pick of the draft goes to. That's Joe Idoni's Palm Beach Coconuts. That's the turn,
I actually don't think 8's a bad pick.
I'll tell you what, in the drafts that I've been a part of, I like the turn.
Yeah, I actually don't think 8's a bad pick.
So that is spot number 8. Spot number 7 will go to, that's me. That's the Vegas Straight Flushers, spot 7.
Okay.
So here we go. Spot number 6 will be the Summerlin Rock Rollers. That's Scott Blumstein's team.
I think he's in the chat.
He is in the chat. Yeah, he showed up to see where he was picking. You're picking 6, Scott.
Congratulations, Scott.
Congratulations. With the 5th pick, this is where I think 5 is tough.
I was going to ask you, what do you think the worst pick in the draft is?
Well, with ADPs all over the place, you might be fine at 5, but I think 5, at least on the turns, you can kind of stock up. At least at 1, 2, 3, you can get basically whoever you want. 5 feels like the toughest spot.
Yeah, I was going to say 3. I think 3 is tough.
Here's 5. The 5th pick goes to. Sorry, bud. That's you, the New York Golf Club.
I'm okay with it, man.
Yeah, you saw 3.
I am okay with it, man. Yeah.
Number 4. The 4th pick goes to. That's Steve Hennessy's team, the Jersey Jabronis.
Okay, I like it. Me and Steve back to back.
So we've got 3 to go. So this is the 3rd pick. The 3rd pick in the draft goes to Keith Stewart's team, the Four Horsemen.
Interesting. By the way, we have Armina in the chat claiming that it's rigged. So I just want you to know, like,
rigged.
You're already, speculation is mounting. You're already under the gun here.
This is why I did this live, to try to remove any speculation of it being rigged. So we're down to the Cincinnati Hustle and the Orlando Kingsmen. Those are the 2 teams left. So the number 2 pick will go to the Orlando Kingsmen, which means that's Jason Sobel's team.
Jason Sobel's got number 2.
And the number 1 pick, the Cincinnati Hustle, that's Tom Evigan's team in the book. So Cincy Hustle, number 1, Orlando Kingsmen, Four Horsemen, Jersey Jabronis, New York Golf Club, Summerlin Rock Rollers, the Vegas Straight Flushers, and the Palm Beach Coconuts, the order of our Run Good Fantasy Gold Standard League.
Yes. I like it. How are you feeling about the order?
I'm happy that I'm at one of the ends, but I think, and we're going to talk about this, like the ADPs are all over the place. So like you could get a really good value at 5. So it kind of depends on the other people in our league and how much they've been doing it. But I like Joe's spot at 8. He'll be able to stock up on a couple of good guys. I'm fine with my spot, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be plenty of studs available.
Yeah. And I think this is, the right segue to start diving into these rankings and trying to figure out, okay, like who's going where, what are we thinking at the very top?
All right, so let's do it. So these articles, and Andy, we mentioned this last week. These are not, you've been putting your rankings on RickRunGood.com, and these are not, here, I'm just going to show one so that we can get an idea of this, or maybe you'll be able to catch 2, but these are not just numbered rankings.
No.
Right? I mean, we're looking at Alex Noren at 40, and it's got, strokes gained for the last 12 months, money list. You've got the good, the bad. These are in-depth previews for essentially every golfer from 100 to 1 in ranking form. They're available on RickRunGood.com. Let's start with 40 to 21. These are golfers that are absolutely starting for you, right? Like we're now firmly in that territory of you need to get some pretty good output from these guys.
Right. Yeah. So if you think about it, if you're starting 6 guys every week, the guy that you're picking in the 3rd and 4th round, that guy is starting for you in majors, right? That guy is hopefully starting for you in, at least 15, 16, 17 times. Like, this is not a guy that you are dropping. So I will turn it back to you, because I have some questions as well about, certain players. But what stood out to you in the 40 to 21 range? Is there anyone that you're kind of crazy on this one, Andy?
So the guy that we are most different on.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Do you have Tom Kim like 10?
I have Tom Kim at 9. Yeah. But that's
I knew. And let me guess, you have Taylor Montgomery at like 14.
I have him at 15. Yeah. Those were the two.
You guys.
So this is obviously this is like volume. And
sure.
What Taylor Montgomery did, and I'm going to try to share my screen, but I'll talk through it. What he did in like a very, very small sample size, because he played nearly every event in the fall. I think he only took one event off, and I think it was one he didn't qualify for, was legit high-end stuff. But this is a conversation that goes back to him being statistically like the best putter on planet Earth, and you just think that is not going to continue.
I don't. And I mean, I dove pretty deep into this. I mean, like, looking at Montgomery's putting numbers in terms of like the specific stats, he is 5th in 1-putt percentage, 18th in putting inside 10 feet, 6th in putting average, 20th in putting from 10 to 15 feet, which is like the money-making zone. That's huge. 26th in putting 15 to 20 feet, 8th in putting from 4 to 8 feet, which is huge. That is like the most important sustainable putting metric, is how good you are from 4 to 8 feet. One thing I looked about a lot is who are regression candidates with the putter versus what players have been on like the wrong side of luck. So for example, if a player ranks first on the PGA Tour in putting from greater than 25 feet and 150th on the PGA Tour in putting from 4 to 8 feet, I don't want that guy. Right? Because that means that this guy caught the right side of luck, caught the right side of variance, and made a bunch of bombs, which is not sustainable. I want to actually be looking for the guy that has been absolutely automatic from 4 to 8 feet and is maybe a little bit lower in 25 feet plus, because I think that is a metric where luck is more of the primary reason there. Does that make sense? That kind of logic that I'm using?
Yes, it is. It is a very logical argument against Taylor Montgomery. I get it. I understand it. I would counter it with just kind of the pure production here. So let me just put into perspective what we've seen. Again, very, very small sample size from Taylor Montgomery. He has 9 qualifying starts of 2023 and 2022. Almost all of them except one, last year's US Open, was in this new season. He has been a star, which is a 90th percentile fantasy performance, 6 out of 9 starts. Justin Thomas only did it 7 times in that span, and he had 23 starts compared to Taylor Montgomery's 9. So to me, Taylor Montgomery is either a league winner or he regresses. He's not this putter, and he's probably going to end up being somewhere where you have him like the 40th ranked golfer of the year.
Well, do we know if he's qualified for the majors, Rick? Because he's 63rd in the world, so I think he's got a little bit of work to do.
He's got a little bit of work to do. That to me is actually the biggest knock against him.
100%. 100%. I don't think you can draft a guy in the 2nd round that you aren't sure is going to play in the 4 majors or the 3rd round.
Now he might just play not everything else, but he's going to play a lot more, right? So that's kind of the biggest knock against against Taylor Montgomery, is not really knowing what his major situation is.
Right. And I mean, he's still got time, right? Like there are a bunch of events early in the season that he's going to play that I think suit his game pretty well. And I don't even know if he has to win, right? He's got to find himself in the top 50 in the world to be on the right track, right? There are a
Yeah,
couple
and
different ways he
he
could
is
get it
gonna
done.
pass a couple of, I think, more live guys with attrition. Just by
Sure.
pure attrition, he's going to improve, and then he puts a couple of, good starts together early in the year, and, he's looking good. But yes, that to me is kind of one of the larger concerns.
Do we have
Um,
any evidence that he's a good iron player?
um
He's outside of the top 50 in every single proximity bucket from 50 to 250 yards.
I think he has to be because, okay, so these results go back further than just like the 2023 PGA Tour fall. He had a great Corn Ferry season last year too, which you would argue, okay, well, he's either been putting out of his mind for a full year, or he's a better second shot player than what he has shown. It's probably a
Yeah.
combination of both, right? Like he's probably got to find the mean on both of these.
Right. And I think you're right with that. And listen, like I talked about this in my write-up of Montgomery too. I don't think there is a scenario where you rack up, what did he have? Like 13 top 15 finishes last year on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Something crazy. Yeah.
You can't do that. That's too large of a sample size for you to get by on just putting. So we have to believe that he is at least a decent iron player. We know that he hits it a long way off the tee. I have zero concerns about his driver. So yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, we would have his, statistics from the Corn Ferry Tour, but I don't think that you get to 13 top 15s in one season without being a good iron player. I don't think you do.
The other guy who you have at 21 and I have much higher is Tom Kim. And this is well, if you're wondering about whether he's a good iron player, I think we've got that answer. Right?
Yeah.
He's been elite in the ball striking categories. The only knock on him is that he's not as long as everybody else. But again, like how many events is Tom? He's like 20 years old. Is he going to play everything? And he's in everything. He's in everything.
Yeah. So that is a positive with Tom Kim, is that you get most of these guys who are like rookies, very wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, right? like Sung JM, right? He's playing like 35 times in his first 2 seasons before you kind of settle in and buy a house, and that goes down to like 25. But yeah, I think in terms of volume, Tom Kim is going to play a ton of golf. My biggest concern with Tom Kim is that of the elite players, he is like the shortest by like a pretty healthy margin. So like, Colin Morikawa and Jordan Spieth kind of get this rap as like, not long off the tee compared to the other elites. Spieth is like pretty long, man. Like Spieth's like top 50 in driving distance. He's actually picked up distance. Morikawa is 83rd in driving distance. Tom Kim all the way down to 148th at driving distance. Like Morikawa has like a solid 10 yards on Tom Kim off the box. Now, that could improve. That could improve very soon. Like distance is a skill. We've seen players add 10 yards of distance in one off season before. But it kind of worries me a little bit on some of, the bigger, longer courses such as Torrey Pines and the major championships and Memorial and stuff like that. Whereas if Tom King is a superstar, then he is a huge outlier he's not the prototypical modern PGA Tour superstar, which is 310 yards off the box, really solid iron player. Your Sam Burns, your Scotty Schefflers, your Victor Hovlands. Tom Kim is not that at all, which doesn't mean that he can't be a superstar, but I think his path to success at some of the bigger major tournament golf courses, the big boy golf courses, is a little bit tougher.
Let me inject some ADP information into the conversation. I've been collecting this manually from drafts that I've done or drafts that I have been overseeing. So I've been downloading it from Fantrax, plugging it into a spreadsheet, so on and so forth. Tom Kim's ADP. It's kind of crazy. 10.9.
Yeah. Go for it, guys.
Taylor Montgomery, 17.6, which is basically one of the first or second picks of the third round. The guy that you, based on your rankings and based on ADPs right now, that you would end up with a lot of is Mito Pereira.
Yeah, and so I actually considered this photo came out after I published it. Did you see that photo of Mito at like Sergio's charity event?
No, I did not.
It was basically the entire live roster in Mito.
Well, and Mito's, I mean, that room, the Mito to live rumor has been going on for a year. He's at that agency that has been a pipeline to live. It's almost shocking he didn't go after the President's Cup. I don't know where we stand with it.
Yeah. So I think I have him, 27th?
You have him 27th, and maybe that's what's driving his ADP. His ADP right now, 51st.
Whoa. Can I just give you some Mito stats real quickly? I mean, this is a guy that, you know, was one stroke away from winning the freaking PGA championship. I'll just say, you know, over the last year, he's 30th in true strokes gained. So over the past year, he's been the 30th best player in the world statistically. So I don't understand where we're getting the 51. And, you know, he played 27 times last season, made 18 cuts, 14 top 30 finishes, third at the Fortinet, third at the PGA Championship, seventh at Colonial. I mean, the guy's a top 25 machine. So I don't know. I think live is the biggest concern for me, but statistically, Mito is not the 51st best golfer in the world. He's closer to the 30th.
Fantasy scoring wise, he is basically right at Cam Davis, Denny McCarthy, Justin Rose-ish type area.
So when you say fantasy scoring, that's like DraftKings points essentially, right?
In this scenario, I'm quoting like standard fantasy points, which is basically DraftKings minus the bonuses. Yes. So it's
okay.
Just a little bit less, but similar.
Okay, so you're want to be looking at, you know, birdie or better percentage, that kind of stuff. Yep. Like birdies are more valuable than bogeys, like stuff like that.
Correct. Yes.
And basically you're saying he underperforms in that category a little bit. That makes sense to me. He makes a ton of pars.
Right. Yes, exactly. So that's the biggest gap between your guys between 40 and 20 and then the ADPs, but everyone else is pretty much, without giving away everybody, like they're all close enough. Those were the ones that stood out to me.
Okay, makes sense. Anybody else in this 21 to 40 range that you want to, you know, argue about before we get into the top?
No, I will just say this, that I think we were almost both dead on. Okay. We're almost both dead on Cam Davis. In that same spot, which I think is
28
pretty
feels
bullish.
Right for him.
Yeah, I think I had him at 26 or something like that.
I think our friend Joseph would have him like 5.
The other interesting one is Taylor Pendrith, who missed a ton of time last year.
He's so good, Rick.
When he came back, he was awesome. And there's like a lot of really good spots on tour for him.
I'm so high on this guy. I mean, he almost won the Rocket Mortgage. He was right there. But this is a guy that played 21 times last year, despite missing 4 months for injury. So that's another guy where I expect the volume to be there. And he is the type of player that can dominate off the tee. Like a lot of the time you're looking at these guys and you're saying, okay, does this guy have one bankable skill set that I can count on, that he is elite at? And in my mind, like Pendrith is like a top 7 driver of the ball in the world right now.
Yeah. I'm looking
statistically.
I'm going to try to cherry pick a stat for Pendrith, and I understand this is going to be cherry picked, but I just want to look at what he did since he came back. So that was July. So July 10th was the day he came back. So let's see if I can find him here. Okay. Okay. How about this? So this is fantasy points for everybody since Taylor Pendrith came back, which is July 10th. He started 9 times. Max Homa started 10 times. They're both almost exactly the same on average fantasy points. Pendrith and Max Homa. Pendrith was better than Matt Fitzpatrick. He was better than Cam Young. He was better than Terrell Hatton. He was better than Cam Davis. So again, I'm cherry picking, but that's every event he played after the injury. It was really, really good in that sample size.
Who are you taking between Pendrith and Davis?
Probably still Davis.
Yeah, by like a hair.
Yes, but I really, really like Pendrith and where he kind of shapes up in all this.
Where do you have Aaron Wise?
In the next section.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. What section are we in? We're in 40 to
we're
21?
in 40 to 21. Yeah.
I have met 22.
I have met 20.
Yeah, so we're close there. So he'll kick off the next section here. So here's what we're gonna do. We still got to do 20 to 10, 10 to 1. Much more to talk about. All the big guys at the top. We're going to take a quick water break and listen to this ad about Andy's podcast. Andy Lack is one of the nerdiest golf guys that I know, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. His knowledge of course architecture allows him to create some of the most actionable course previews available, and he offers up pure expertise on his own podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast. Twice a week, he offers course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategy for every PGA Tour event, and he expands the universe by bringing on entertaining and knowledgeable guests who can offer a different viewpoint of the game that we love. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts. Okay, Andy, 20 to 11 is where we're at right now. You mentioned it. It starts with Aaron Wise. I think I might have joked about this before. Love this format, right? I don't have to bet him every single week. I can just draft him constantly. He never wins and still finds a way to produce my fantasy team a ton of points.
Yeah, I think that Wise is like the overlap for us. That is like the shared. Yeah. We are both so high on this guy. He's 26 years old, Rick. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize he was so young. But I mean, you think about it, he's the same age as Will Zalatoris, Aaron Wise. And I mean, I think it's not a hot take to say that his best golf is ahead of him, but he played 23 times last year. 13 top 30 finishes, runner up at the Memorial. That's like a really good runner up, in my opinion. So, you look at a statistical profile and it's all trending in the right direction, right? The ball striking is improving. The putting is improving. There are a ton of like really, really great courses for him. I think one of the best, the biggest strengths about Aaron Wise is that you can kind of roll him out on any course. Like I don't really have a problem playing him in Birdie Fest. I think his putter's good enough to keep up. And I think, I wouldn't be shocked if he would you be shocked if Aaron Wise was in the mix at, one or two of the majors this year? Like, I think he's got the game to do it.
He's proven to be for multiple years, a very, very strong, if not, I won't say elite, a very, very strong tee to green player. And now that he is finding those improvements on the putting surfaces and there's a lot of good spots for him, no, I would not be surprised to see him contend at a major or two.
Yeah, I mean, he's gained over 4.5 strokes putting like 5 times last season. That's like pretty impressive. And, with his ball striking, if you're gaining over 4 strokes putting, like you're going to be there. So yeah, I think Wise, I know you think Tom Kim is in like a different tier than Wise.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that I think I'm too high on Tom Kim. Right?
Don't let me talk you out of it. You are actually in the majority. I'm in the minority.
Because when you start getting to where I have him, that is like elite company, and he has got the upside to be a top 10 fantasy player, but I think that could also very much backfire. Aaron Wise, I think, is safer to finish somewhere between like the 15th and 22nd best fantasy player of the year nearly every single time.
Sure. You don't have Tom over Hovland, do you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. Might be
okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm looking at ADPs. Hold on. Sorry, I was looking at my wrong.
Are people drafting Tom Kim over Hovland?
Yes. Tom Kim is the So his ADP is 10,
What?
10.9. It's the eighth lowest ADP. Hovland is
What are you guys doing?
Hovland is like 12th.
Yeah, that's silly.
Let me put a bow on this because we're talking about aired wise. His ADP is about 22nd.
Okay, cool. So we're kind of right on market with that one.
The next guy here, this is the absolute biggest question mark. The guy that you think legit might win you the league and legit might never play on the PGA Tour again. I don't know. I'm talking about Daniel Berger. I have gotten more questions, Andy, about Daniel Berger than anyone this offseason. I don't know anything. He hasn't played since the U.S. Open. I have not heard an update about his injury. I know he loves boating with DJ. I'd be 0% surprised to hear he's going to live. I honestly have zero idea about Daniel Berger right now.
So where do you have him, Rick? Because I have him at 18. Do you think that's too high or too low?
I have him at I have him at 31.
Ooh, he's a top 15 guy in the world statistically if he's healthy. Big F.
Right.
Big F.
Yes, I completely agree. That's the big if there. But what about do I read too do we even know what his injury was? I've heard literally nothing about it.
So I made this point in a conversation to a friend the other day, but there is such an untapped market for whoever wants to step up as the Adam Schefter of golf. Rick, in what other sport could a top 20 player in the world miss 6 months of, their professional schedule and not what? And I consider myself like faux media. Like, I don't consider myself like really part of the media, really. I mean, you could maybe consider it, but I'm so shocked that not one media member has tried to call his agent and get a statement. It's like, what are we doing? This is wild. This would never happen in any other sport where we just don't hear from the guy for 6 months and there's absolutely zero insight into his injury. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's absolutely bizarre. I can just tell you where he's being drafted. He's being drafted 36.5 as his ADP. So if you are high on him, you can get him. What would that be? 8, 16, 24, 32, like the middle of the 5th round.
Yeah. I think Daniel Berger is really good. I think he has I think he has a really, really well-rounded skill set. He's the type of guy that I trust in both major championships and in, hardcore birdie fest too. Maybe I have him a little bit too high. The ADP is 36. Wow. Let me ask you this question, Rick. Are you taking Daniel Berger or are you taking, I don't know, Corey Connors?
Corey Connors.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just I mean, I have him pretty close, but, Connors is rarely going to kill you. I feel like, he's got the great Masters history. I think Connors is probably the guy, and I'm not super high on Connors. Like he hasn't been that great as of late. His President's Cup was horrible, but I'm just kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt that when he starts in January, he's going to be good again.
What do you think's a bigger risk?
He might be the favorite at Wildlife. Like Corey Connors might be the favorite at Wildlife.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. And he's been good at that course too. Yeah. What do you think's a bigger risk, Mito or Berger?
I guess Mito.
I think so too.
I think Mito is more likely he goes to live if either of them go. I think that when they're both at their best, Berger's better, and that's pretty obvious. So yeah, I think the riskier one is Mito.
Okay. Yeah, I may move Berger a little bit back.
The other one is Hideki. So you have Hideki at 15. He's another one that gets a lot of questions because of just kind of the really bizarre end to the year that he had, which was not a lot of good play, not striking it well, which is way off of his, baseline, couple of WDs. There's just a lot of more question marks for Hideki as well.
Where do you have him, Rick?
I have Hideki at I have him at 29.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
what's his ADP?
His ADP is 20.9. So I've not gotten myself a lot of Hideki this season.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, I do think that the withdrawal thing is like a little bit more anecdotal, people getting mad at their DraftKings lineup than really based in reality. What did he withdraw 2 times last year?
He withdrew in Houston and the 3M Open. He got disqualified from the Memorial. Remember that?
And he was gonna miss that cut. I remember that.
Yeah. And he withdrew from Valero. So I mean, he had four WDs or DQs.
Okay. That's fair. That's more than I remember. I had it in my head that he had only 2. But I will say this about Hideki, like he's gained over a stroke per round in 10 consecutive seasons. Like this guy delivers year in and year out. And like, despite the fact that it often seems like he's hurt, he's been one of the most consistent golfers in the world over the past decade. I mean, has he dropped out of the top 25 in the world in 8 years? I don't think so.
Probably not. So he's the guy that if you're in there at, 15 or something, you can get him because that ADP, as I said, I think it's 20.9. So those are the big question marks. Looking at your list here from 20 to 11, like, is there somebody who feels the safest to you?
Homa? Not Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
Probably Sungjae M at 13.
Okay.
Sungjae, where do you have Sungjae?
So I'm very high on Sungjae, but I have pumped the brakes a little bit just because he is not necessarily so I have him at 11.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, are you taking Sungjae or Sam Burns?
I have Sam Burns at 13, so technically I'd have to take Sungjae. Now, if I had a bunch of Sungjae or something like that, I would diversify. But I've got that. I mean, we're very close on like these 5 here. This Fitzpatrick, Sungjae, Spieth, Burns, Homa. We're both right on those guys.
Are you taking Sungjae or Cameron Young?
I have Cameron Young ahead.
Okay, that was a tough one for me.
That was very tough.
Burns, Cam Young, Sungjae, Fitzpatrick, that group. I think 11 to 15 is really tough. And then I want to ask you about Spieth too. Where do you have Spieth?
12.
You have Spieth at 12.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, interesting.
I just think he's gonna I don't mind the volatility as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me neither.
And I guess, do I really think that Jordan Spieth has forgot how to putt? Like, I'm not ready to do that yet. And if he just warms up the putter like a little bit, it could be pretty scary stuff.
So you're taking Spieth over Homa?
Correct. But I mean, I have him within 2 spots of each other.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're pretty close on Spieth. Yeah. It's not like I have him in the 30s. I have Spieth 16. And I agree with you. He was such a nightmare on the greens last year. But, I mean, dude, he's 161st in putting from 4 to 8 feet. Do you know how detrimental that is to be 161st in putting from 4 to 8 feet? Like, it is really, really, really hard to play good, consistent golf being that bad from such an important range. I have no reason to believe that he won't turn it around. There was actually his ball striking was like pretty good last year, Rick. There was a stretch where he was pretty awesome off the tee. Shockingly, it kind of came back down to earth as the season went on. And I told you, like, he's picked up some distance. Spieth is like sneaky long. I'm like looking for him. I'm not going to probably draft him below, I'm not going to reach for him, but I want Spieth this year.
The only thing that I have, and obviously I'm still very high on Sungjae. I have him 11th overall, but the only thing that I have cautioned people with is he is not necessarily the huge volume guy that he once was. So 2019, he had 33 starts.
Right.
It was by far the most. 2020, he made 25 starts. That was the shortened year. That was also the most. 2021, I think he had 33 starts. It was like the second most. And then 2022, he went down to 24 starts. He made the fewest starts of his career. He made the most money he ever made in his career. So it was probably well warranted. I just don't think he is the super volume guy anymore, but you're still going to get a lot of great play from him.
100%. And you're right. I mean, so if he made 24 starts last year, Rick, like that's still pretty good.
Of course it is. Yes.
I have Rory at like 15 starts.
We're going to get to Rory. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's do the top 10.
here's what we're going to do. We're going to get to the big boys, 10 through 1, the first round or so. I'm also, while we're here, going to remind you that I'm trying to build this community on BroThrow, and BroThrow is supporting our fantasy draft. So we're going to support them. It is free to sign up. It is available in every state. It's peer-to-peer betting. There's no juice. Our group, I want to get to like 300 people. There's 21 active open bets right now. We have 127 different members, so we can bet with each other. So I can come in here and say, Christopher has put up a $10 bet. He wants the under on the Colts Giants game. I can just take the other side of this. So I'll just do that right now while we do it. There's no vig here. There's no juice. It's free to sign up. It's available in every state. And the more people we get, Andy, the more we'll be able to just only make bets with each other. This is the dream.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's so, just like, think about the vig that you are paying so often that we just like forget about. BroThrow removes all of it.
Yeah. So there's some good, Taylor, I bet with him a lot. There are some good, there's some good college football bets out there. This is invite only, so you need a link. I have the link in the description. I think it's just brothrow.com/Rick, but there's a link in the description. That'll get you in our group. And then our group, you can just place bets and make them with each other. Then you just settle up with Venmo, settle up with Cash App, settle up with PayPal, settle up with whatever. It's actually a pretty good, solid little system they have going on. The biggest of the big dogs. 10 through 1. The names are generally the same. It's just the order. We'll start with the top of your board.
Okay.
Tony Finau.
Yep.
I'm much higher on Tony Finau than you are. I have him 3rd overall. You have him 10th overall.
So can you make the case, and then I'll do a little bit of a rebuttal, but what's the case for Tony as a top 5 guy?
The case for Tony is a couple of things. He is a big birdie or better guy, which he is a big prolific fantasy point scorer. Yeah. He also plays more than his peers, or at least some of these other guys in the in like the top 10. So of the guys that I have in my top 10, these are qualified starts. This is from the Sony Open to the BMW Championship. He and Cam Young played the most last year, 19 times, 19 qualifying starts. Rory only played 14 qualifying starts. If you open it up to the larger season, you'll get more. But like there is a pretty decent gap of how much he plays. And he has also been like year over year, one of the best fantasy scorers. So I think last year he was top 5 in fantasy scoring, just in like total points. Let me see if I have this handy. 2022, he was the 3rd highest point scorer. 2021, he was like 12th. 2020, he was 11th. 2019, so he's basically like living in the top. 2019, he was 6th. He's living in this upper echelon of scoring, and now he's starting to win. So I just think he's a really solid high floor, high ceiling option, which is very, very hard to find.
Valuable. Yeah. Incredibly well-rounded player. He's one of only 4 players in the world to rank in the top 50 in all 4 major statistical categories. Can you name the other 3?
Oh, so say it again. To rank inside the top 4 guys to rank inside the top 50 of the 4 main strokes gained.
Yeah.
Cantlay.
Mm-hmm.
Xander.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Those I was pretty sure about. It's gonna be. Is it somebody weird like Homa?
No.
Is it Rory?
It is Rory.
Okay. I tried to go for the one off there, but Rory was, I guess, the shoe-in.
Yeah, it's Rory. But I mean, I think the only reason why I'm a little bit lower on Finau, and we're splitting hairs here at the top, right? Like I think you could make a case for any of these guys really in your top 3. Finau has had this like weird trajectory, right? Where if you look at the first 4 months of his season, basically up until the Mexico Open, he was like really bad. And then he kind of like, he seemed to have found something at the Mexico Open and completely caught fire. I mean, he's like in the last 6 months, he's got 3 wins. He's got 3 wins, 2 runners up, and 2 other top 5s in a 15 start stretch. I'm a little curious to see if he can keep it up because he tends to like split his year up into 2 he's a streaky player, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where he gets hot and he racks up top 5s and top 10s and top 15s. And then he goes kind of cold for a little bit too. And I'm trying to factor in the fact, okay, we are buying Tony Finau at an all-time high right now. Is it possible that he goes higher, or is it more likely that he probably regresses a little bit? So, I mean, he's 10th, right? Like he's a top 10 guy in the world for me. But yeah, there are a couple guys ahead of him that I'd like a little bit more.
There are in the drafts that I've done, and there was a question from Jordan there. He says, I watch almost every week, but what is ADP? Don't worry, Jordan. You're not missing anything. Average draft position. So I take all the results from all the drafts and average out where these guys go. There's a big 7 forming, Andy.
Okay.
The big 7 are guys that rank their ADP is 6.6 or lower. And then there's a gap. Those are the only guys in single digits. So like Tony Finau's the 7th guy taken off the board. His ADP is 6.6. And then there's a gap to Tom Kim at basically 11. And that's kind of it's kind of one of the biggest gaps on the board. So there's 7 guys, Tony Finau being the last of the ADPs. The others are names that you would expect them to be: Rory, Scotty, Jon Rahm, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele. So that's the big 7 that's forming here.
So is there anyone in my top 7? Is my top 7 go hand in hand with the ADP top 7?
You have no. So you have Will Zalatoris in your top 7.
Are people drafting Tom Kim over Will Zalatoris?
Buddy, they are drafting Tom Kim over everyone but those 7 guys that I mentioned: Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, JT, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Tony Finau. Zalatoris is 11.7. He's 2 spots behind Tom Kim.
Okay, can I ask you about this like little mini range of great, not really youngsters anymore, but rank Colin, Zalatoris, Hovland, and Scheffler for me, please.
God.
I have them 4 in a row.
Scheffler. For next year, I guess.
For next year.
Scheffler, Morikawa, Zalatoris, Hovland. And I guess I'm just doing that because
you're the Hovland whisperer.
Dude, these are like 4 of the best players in the world. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I got like literally these guys are like the 4 of the best players in the world. There is this weird like Colin Morikawa. Like some people think he's gonna have a bad season for some reason, and I
do they really?
I cannot.
I think
find,
he's gonna have a big bounce back season.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a massive year.
Yeah, I think it's really tough. And to be honest with you, I've changed this around. Like I was kind of in the camp of like, okay, I'm gonna put Scheffler on the opposite end of this because I think that he is more likely due for regression, whereas these other guys are gonna like I think Hovland and Cullen didn't have like a bad year, but I think they underperformed for who they were. But Scheffler plays the most, which is the reason why I had a hard time not making Scheffler fifth.
Here's the low-key other thing. I might have mentioned this before. So they're all going to be playing basically the same events, but the elevated events don't include anything in Texas, really. And these Texas guys have basically already said, Spieth and Scotty Scheffler, like they're still going to play the Byron Nelson. They're still going to play these non-elevated events in Texas. So you actually might get like 1 or 2 more starts. And he already plays a lot more, or not a lot more, but more from Scotty Scheffler. I could see Scheffler, even if he's not going to have the same year he just had, right? He's not going to win 4 times in 8 starts or whatever and break the money title. But like, there's a very, very clear path to Scotty Scheffler being the #1 fantasy player again.
No, Scheffler, he plays a lot of golf. I have him as like 23, 24-ish starts. I mean, if you look at the guys around him, it's a lot of 19 and 20. Rick, right? Like Xander only played 20 times. Cantlay only played 19 times. Justin Thomas only played 20 times. So if you're getting those extra 4, and Morikawa played 18 times. Hovland played 20 times. So your guy Finau did play 24 times. So you're getting the 2 volume guys in the top 10. If you want to do it just based on volume, Scheffler and Finau play the most golf, or at least they did last year.
Right. And especially for Scotty, I don't think that's really changing anytime soon. So the top of the board, there has been one guy who has literally in all the drafts that I've pulled has not been drafted after the 2 spot, Andy. He has gone first or second in every single draft that I've pulled. It's Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
And I'm certain he's the best option available, but I think there's a really good chance he's not a prolific fantasy scorer because he's not going to play enough. Like, I don't even love having the first pick because I'm taking him and I have to take him, and I'm not certain there's a path to him. Like, he's not going to, if he played 18, if you got 18 starts from him, that'd be a pretty big number.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like you kind of have to take Rory because what if Rory wins 2 majors next year, right? Like statistically, Rory should have won. I mean, Rory is gaining, just for context on like, Rory is like kind of, this is why I never really had much time for the Cam Smith arguments, is like Rory's gaining 0.34 strokes per round better than the second best golfer in the world over a year-long sample size. Rory has been over a quarter stroke better than the second best player in the world, which has been Scotty Scheffler, over a year-plus sample size. That's like dominant, right? And
if you want it from a fantasy point perspective, so from the start of the 2022 season, he's averaging 86 fantasy points. It's 3 more than the next best, Patrick Cantlay, which is the same gap from Cantlay to like Xander Schauffele. Like, Rory is kind of lapping the field on any metric you want except volume.
Sorry, that was my mom graciously handing me my computer charger because I'm at 5%. But yeah, I mean, he is 1B in terms of the best driver of the ball in the world. He's probably got the most underrated short game of the elite players. Rory's got like an awesome short game. He's a great bunker player. And listen, I mean, I think that these major championships, we've talked about this on podcasts before, Rick. He won at Royal Liverpool. He's got a huge family connection to Oak Hill. He's an honorary member at Oak Hill. I mean, if you're just purely basing it on numbers, and I try not to get too bogged down by the numbers, but what Rory did statistically last year, like statistically is the best season of his career. And it doesn't feel like it because he didn't, there were seasons where he's won 3-4 times and, won a couple majors. The wins weren't there for him, but the baseline level of consistency that Rory has, and I think he's really, matured as a player. And he's talked about this before where he really understands, like, we're talking about a guy that gained over 9 strokes putting at the US Open, right? And he, of course, it happened on the 4th worst around the green week of his entire career. So that's what it was a lot with Rory McIlroy, was it, these unbelievable performances, but not being able to time it up at the right time to get the wins.
You got to take him 1 overall, right? I mean, just like if you get the 1 pick, you just got to bite your teeth and take Rory.
Can you vamp for a second on Jon Rahm while I plug my charger in?
Absolutely, I can. So Jon Rahm is checking in with an ADP right behind Rory McIlroy. 3.1. Actually, I lied. Scotty Scheffler is 2.7. Jon Rahm is 3.1. There have been drafts. So where there have been drafts where Rahm has gone 2nd overall. There have been drafts where Jon Rahm has fallen to 8 overall. If you can get Jon Rahm in the 8th pick, you are absolutely loving life because he fixed the short game. He's been putting great. You have the same volume concerns for Rahm as you do Rory McIlroy, but you should never be letting Jon Rahm fall to 8, which is where he has in some drafts, but he's averaging out around 3.1.
God, he's falling to 8 in some drafts, Rick?
Just some. I mean, he's gone as high as 2 and he's gone as low as 8, but average 3.1.
That's irresponsible, in my opinion. Has he gone 1 at all? I think there is a hive that believe that Rahm is better than Rory.
I have not pulled one where he has gone number 1.
Okay.
But that does not mean it's not happening. Those are just the ones that I have access to.
Yeah, Rahm is another guy like Rory that has been really frustrating in terms of not being able to time up his good weeks. Rick, he had a historically great driving season. I mean, if you look at his off the tee numbers, they're insane. He's the best off the tee season of his career. He's gaining a stroke on everyone per round off the tee alone.
I think it was like the 14th 1+ round or 1+ year off the tee. And it was so historically good off the tee. And he got basically the least out of it, Andy. The other guys who did that had multiple wins. They were winning FedEx Cups. He had basically the worst money finish, the lowest number of wins, just the worst FedEx Cup rank of any of those guys who drove it like he did.
Yeah, can you imagine if he didn't decide to show up in Mexico? He would, right? So I think Rahm bounces back in a big way this year. I guess the final question, because I know we've gone kind of long on this, Cantlay or Xander or JT. I kind of group those guys in the same thing because they're not really the young guys, but they're these guys that are in the prime of their career and very clear top 10 players in the world. Where would you rank JT, Cantlay, and Xander?
I have them back to back. So I have it Cantlay, Xander, JT. And
Xander, JT. Okay.
I could see a path to JT being great. I worry a little bit about some of the metrics that we've seen from him. Cantlay's just been historically a great fantasy performer, but all these guys are great. I've been diversifying, right? Like, and that's the other part that we haven't even really talked about yet is like, I have my rankings, but I have not been super strict to them because I understand that I could be wrong. I could be a little bit off. I want to diversify some of these guys. I don't want to take Xander every single time in the 6th spot. I want to mix it up, get a little Patrick Cantlay, get a little Justin Thomas, get a little Cam Young or whatever it is, right? Just diversify these teams up a little bit.
Yeah. And you always there's always that moment in the draft where you kind of panic and go off script.
Of course. I panic.
It always
constantly.
happens. Yeah. It always happens. So I have Cantlay 3, JT 4, and Xander 6. And I was careful because, I didn't want people to say I'm a Xander homer, but you could make it. I mean, it's like I said, Xander and Cantlay outside of Rory are the 2 statistically most well-rounded players in the world. I think that you are getting a really, really high floor with these guys.
The ADP on those guys is JT 4.9, Patrick Cantlay 5.7, Xander Schauffele 6.3. So they're back to back, but JT's getting drafted a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Ooh, doggy. Okay. So with that, the rankings are out. You can go to RickRunGood.com, see Andy's rankings. Now that we've
10 through 1 will be out in like 30 minutes after the show.
Yeah. So if you're not watching this live, it's probably already out. If you're watching it live, give us a couple of minutes. And then I'll also post mine. Now that we've talked about all of them, I'll post mine and I'll post all the ADPs that I have.
Cool.
So that we can go through those, and I'll keep those updated. But man, it's going to be good. We're going to be in Vegas shortly. You've got the 5th pick. I've got the 7th pick. We've got more homework to do now.
Right around the corner. I am super pumped. And yeah, just one more time, go join leagues. Like hopefully these shows are, get you pumped up as much as we are. So go join leagues. You're going to regret it mid-season when, everybody's,
emails we're going to get, like American Express week, like, oh, I wanted to join a league. Is it too late? Yep. Sorry. Links are in the descriptions. Get after it. Andy's available on Twitter at ADPLackSports. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your rankings debate, 40 through 1. Best of luck.